The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere, and it's time for another edition of the Morning Espresso, brought to you by our friends at Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. I'm Jason Longshore, and today feels like one of those days where you can maybe sense that the game is shifting a little bit. You had a tournament opener loaded with pressure yesterday, some really big decisions that are reshaping the international calendar, a long-awaited release of tension at a club that desperately needed it. Let's start in Rabat. Morocco's African Cup of Nations began the only way that it realistically could, with the hosts winning, but it was nervy, it was tense, it was ultimately very professional from the hosts. Morocco 2-0 winners over Comoros at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium. Took some patience. Morocco had to fight for this one a little bit. Comoros was very good in dropping numbers behind the ball. They sat and they soaked up a lot of pressure. It was pouring down rain, but Morocco broke through. They had a first half penalty saved pretty early. Comoros stayed compact, they stayed disciplined, and it felt like they grew into the game a little bit. But quality eventually tells. Brahim Diaz opened the scoring in the second half, and then one of the best goals I've ever seen live. And it's not the first time that Ayoub El Kaabi has scored a goal like this. It's not your typical bicycle kick. It's like a fall-away bicycle kick. And it blew my mind, first off, watching him do it, as he's like backpedaling as the ball is served in and he hits the bike. When I went to look it up to share the video, he did nearly the same thing 6 months ago. It's insane to have such a unique kind of bicycle kick and to do it twice. I mean, this right now is your goal of the tournament. It is your goal of the year. It's up there. I mean, it's got to be up there. It's one of the best goals I've ever seen live. It was incredible. And every commentator, and I've heard like this called in a bunch of different languages already, every commentator loses all composure when he goes up and scores that goal. It's so funny to hear the voice just go into a place that is not normal. Amazing goal. That made it 2-0. That's how it finished. And you could just feel the tension release in the stadium. It reminds everybody why Morocco are the favorites and why, as we've said for a while now, they are becoming a power in the game worldwide. Not a power in Africa, a power worldwide. And if they go on and they win this AFCON and then they make a run in next summer's World Cup, they're there. This is one of the best teams in the world right now. Can they continue to prove it? We're going to find out as this tournament goes on. Just as important, I mean, it was a Morocco team that was managing some of the circumstances they had to deal with. Achraf Hakimi remained on the bench as he continues his recovery from injury. And Noussair Mazraoui stepped in seamlessly, the Manchester United fullback. He provided an assist, reinforced just how much depth that this team now has. Afterward, Walid Regragui, he acknowledged the nerves, he acknowledged the moment, he emphasized that Morocco have been building toward this tournament for years and that they expect to grow stronger as it goes on. Opening nights are rarely pretty. A lot of times they're about getting through it, and Morocco did exactly that. Let's stay with AFCON. Ahead of the match, the Confederation announced that the African Cup of Nations will move to a 4-year cycle beginning in 2029, ending the long-running biennial format every 2 years. Alongside it came confirmation that an African Nations League will launch, designed to fill the international windows with structured, competitive matches. It's a seismic shift. For years, AFCON's timing, which is in the middle of the European club season, has placed African players in a tough position, caught between club obligations and national pride. The clubs have to release the players, but it does create some turmoil. CAF President Patrice Motsepe, he framed the change around sustainability, around calendar certainty, and financial stability. More predictable scheduling attracts sponsors, broadcasters, and long-term investment. That's survival in the modern game. Walid Regragui, the manager of Morocco, he offered a more nuanced take. He acknowledged that a biennial tournament allowed teams to grow faster and rebound from setbacks, but also suggested that spacing AFCON out could elevate its stature and help African players earn greater respect at their clubs. There's still some real questions to answer here. Climate, how you deal with climate when it comes to scheduling. That's why the tournament is being played right now. Competition with the Euros and other confederation tournaments. But what's clear is African football is looking to grow and looking to not just try to fit in around everybody else's schedules. It's asserting itself, and it's doing what's best for the game on the continent. Now, what's interesting is Africa is not alone in creating a Nations League competition. We've seen it in Europe already. We've seen it in CONCACAF already, but now the Asian Football Confederation has confirmed plans to introduce its own Nations League. They cited familiar problems, rising travel costs, difficulty finding meaningful opponents during international windows, fixtures that lacked competitive value. So they're creating a league format that matches teams by level, centralizes logistics, provides clearer pathways for national teams across the continent. They also acknowledge strong commercial interest in this. Fans want meaning, broadcasters want narrative, sponsors want consistency. I have not been the biggest fan of Nations League competitions, but once it kind of opened up, you almost have to go along with it. Now, there's even talk in South America about what that looks like as World Cup qualifying continues to evolve, and you get the conversations with Copa America and CONCACAF and what that looks like in the future. It's very hard to find international friendlies once Europe took themselves out of it and decided to keep their own money with their Nations League. It kind of forced everybody else to follow along. Now, long term, I do want to see how this goes, because while I do think Nations Leagues are outstanding for raising the bottom level in each confederation, I think CONCACAF has really benefited from this. I think others have as well. It doesn't help the top teams stay the top teams as easily, because you don't get those games against top teams from other parts of the world. So I'm fascinated to see where all of this goes. But Africa and Asia both exploring launching Nations League competitions. Let's go to Glasgow. This was a club in Celtic that desperately needed a result for Wilfried Nancy. 4 losses for the first time since 1978 to have 4 losses in a row. Nancy's first 4 games in charge of the club. They finally deliver this man his first win. They beat 10-man Aberdeen in a match that somehow was dominant and chaotic and nerve-shredding. They hit the post 5 times. Wilfried Nancy said he's never seen this before. They created chance after chance after chance after chance. Expected goals number north of 4. Wastefulness kept Aberdeen alive. Down a man, the Dons found a late equalizer. And then finally, very late, Kieran Tierney, he restored the lead. James Forrest added a third in stoppage time, scoring in a 17th consecutive season for the club. It doesn't erase everything. It doesn't solve everything. But for Nancy, it's a win that really matters. He spoke afterwards about resilience, about process, about focusing on performance rather than the table. And sometimes that first win is more about belief than the actual points that you earn in the table. Celtic needed that. So did Wilfried Nancy. One injury update. This carries some implications beyond just club. Bournemouth manager Andoni Areola, he confirmed that Tyler Adams will miss at least 2 months after a torn MCL, minutes into the wild 4-4 draw at Manchester United where he blocked a long-range shot. Areola called it a major blow, noted Adams' importance and the typical 2 to 3 month recovery timeline for this kind of injury. Timing's brutal. He had just won Premier League Goal of the Month for November. Had been linked maybe with a bigger move in January. That's not going to happen now. We'll see if he is back in time to contribute to the U.S. international friendlies against Belgium and Portugal here in Atlanta in March. Let's get into the refill headlines from all over the world. Kylian Mbappe, he matched Cristiano Ronaldo's Real Madrid record of 59 goals in a calendar year. Mbappe scored in a 2-0 win over Sevilla. Did it in the same number of appearances Ronaldo needed back in 2013, paid tribute with the trademark celebration, called Ronaldo an idol and a friend afterwards. He can't pass the mark this year, but he has leveled it 59 goals in the calendar year. That's crazy. Harry Kane, also crazy. He keeps rewriting Bundesliga history. His 30th goal of the season in all competitions. Bayern beat Heidenheim 4-0. Kane becomes the fastest player to reach 100 goal contributions in the Bundesliga. Bayern head into the winter break 9 points clear. In Brazil, Corinthians, they lifted their fourth ever Copa do Brasil title with a 2-1 win over Vasco da Gama at the Maracanã. Goals from Yuri Alberto and Memphis Depay sealed it. Vasco's runner-up finish earns them a spot in the Copa Sudamericana next year. In Costa Rica, Liga Deportivo Alajuelense are champions again. 31st time in history. Dramatic final win over their arch-rivals, Saprissa. 5-year title drought for Liga. They finally get that win again at one of Central America's most passionate fan bases. Still partying probably in Costa Rica. Aston Villa, they stayed right in the Premier League title race. 2-1 win over Manchester United, powered by 2 outstanding solo goals from Morgan Rogers. 10th straight win in all competitions. Another statement from Unai Emery's side. Barcelona, they remained 4 points clear at the top of La Liga. 2-0 win over Villarreal. Goals from Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. Good news was tempered a little bit by Andreas Christensen suffering a partial ACL tear in training ahead of the match, an injury that could sideline him for around 4 months and keep him out of Denmark's critical World Cup playoff matches. Liverpool, they're waiting on scan results after Alexander Isak was forced off immediately after scoring in a 2-1 win over Tottenham. Mo Salah away at AFCON, Cody Gakpo already out injured. Arne Slot's injury or options with injuries could get thin quickly if Isak is out for any length of time, and the Swedish national team has playoff matches coming up in March. They are anxiously awaiting updates here as well. Neymar, he underwent surgery on a torn meniscus in his left knee. He's expected to miss the preseason for Santos. Contract nearing its end. Santos and Brazil both closely monitoring his recovery. We'll see if he will be back fairly soon for Santos. I think this is a somewhat minor procedure. Their state league competition starts in January. Thiago Silva, he's back in Europe at 41 years old, signing with Porto until the end of the season with an option for another year. He'll join them in January. Keeps him in contention for one more final World Cup, and it keeps him closer to family in England. Palmeiras, they confirmed Anibal Moreno's departure to River Plate on a 4-year deal. The Argentine midfielder leaves after 117 appearances for the South American powerhouse. Mali, they are without captain Yves Bissouma for their AFCON opener this morning against Zambia. Coach Tom Saintfiet remains confident that he'll play a role later in the tournament, maybe as soon as the match against Morocco. Got games at 9 and noon and 3. South Africa take the field at noon today. Egypt at 3 o'clock. You can watch all of it on BN Sports. If you don't have that on your cable or satellite or streaming providers, you can get it with our friends Fnatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Chelsea's women, they overwhelmed Liverpool 9-1 in the Women's League Cup quarterfinals. It shows that Chelsea is dominant, but it also shows that Liverpool is, 1, headed towards relegation, and 2, why is it this bad for a club with the resources that Liverpool have after all of the money that they spent on the men's side in the summer that didn't necessarily make them better? Why is their women's program so bad at this point? Real Sociedad, they appointed American coach Pellegrino Matarazzo on a deal through 2027, trying to steady the team that is just above the relegation zone in La Liga. They're in 16th place at the moment. Pittsburgh Riverhounds, they named Rob Vincent as their permanent head coach after an unbeaten run as the interim. He had a strong finish to the season, got Pittsburgh into the USL Championship final. And Pep Guardiola, he reminded Manchester City players that the holidays, they're not going to play. They're going to get some time off around Christmas. It comes with consequences. Anyone returning overweight from the break won't play against Nottingham Forest on the weekend. City sit 2 points off the top. Standards, non-negotiable for Pep and his crew. He'll be having everybody check in, hit the scales when they come back into the facility. I think on the evening of Christmas is when they're getting back together. From Rabat to Glasgow, today shows us a sport in motion worldwide. AFCON is underway, delivering pressure but also quality. Africa and Asia, they signal their future built around structure and certainty. Clubs finding relief like Celtic in Glasgow. Players finding setbacks with injuries and hopefully getting back in time to help their national teams, and this calendar that is beginning to bend towards something new. We're not done either on the SDH network. Tonight, soccer over there, live at 8 o'clock on YouTube, Twitch, and X. Presented, as always, by the Brewhouse Cafe and Around the Corner Lager, powered by Nofo Brewing. We'll go deeper into AFCON's results today. We'll talk more about Nations League and the format and what it means. And we'll bring you our latest picks of the week from around the world, because y'all know this by now, the game never stops, and neither do we. We're always around the corner from everywhere, and I'll be back with more Morning Espresso for you tomorrow. Have a great Monday, y'all.